Don't believe this heartbreak myth. That you just move on, stay busy, find someone new, and magically, the pain disappears. That's not healing. That's avoidance. And it's the reason why so many people carry silent scars for years, sometimes decades, never really understanding why they still feel broken inside. If you want to truly heal from heartbreak, if you want to come out stronger, wiser, and more grounded than before, you need to do this one thing. Go inward. Because real healing doesn't start with forgetting the person. It starts with remembering yourself. Did you know that the ancient Stoics, think Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, faced betrayal, loss, and emotional grief just like we do today? And yet, they built philosophies that not only helped them survive, but transform through it. This video isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending you're fine. It's about guiding you through the real emotional process of heartbreak, using timeless wisdom and powerful questions that help you turn your pain into purpose. Whether you're in the thick of it, still haunted by memories, or quietly putting yourself back together, this is for you. So take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear might not just heal your heart, it might reintroduce you to yourself. Number 1. Accepting reality. The first step to healing a broken heart. There's a moment in life, maybe you've felt it, where everything around you feels like it's frozen. The sounds are muffled, the days drag longer, and even laughter from across the street feels like a cruel reminder of what once made you smile. It's the sting of heartbreak. And in that moment, whether you're 18 or 60, it doesn't matter who you are. Pain finds you all the same. But here's something you may not realize at first. Healing doesn't begin with forgetting or pretending it never happened. It begins with acceptance. Now before your mind pulls up that cliché, just accept it and move on. Pause for a second. Because this isn't that. Stoicism teaches us that suffering often doesn't come from what happens, but from our resistance to what is. It's not the breakup itself, it's the battle against accepting that it's over. It's waking up each day hoping that one message will come through, hoping the pain will vanish by evening, hoping things could go back to how they were. And hope, while beautiful, can sometimes become a trap. The ancient Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they all believed in the power of seeing things clearly. Amor fati, love your fate. Not tolerate it, not ignore it, but embrace it, even the heartbreak, because it happened, and denying it only stretches out the pain. Now, let's be honest. That's easier said than done, right? When someone walks out of your life, someone you shared laughter, late-night talks, and dreams with, it's hard not to feel like a chapter was ripped out mid-sentence. And maybe, for a while, you find yourself rereading the same paragraph over and over, hoping the ending will change. Think about a time when something unexpected and painful happened in your past. Maybe it was the loss of a friend, a job, or a home. You didn't want it to happen. But eventually, once you stopped fighting it, once you looked it in the eye and said, "This is my reality now," that's when a new kind of strength began to form. Quiet, subtle, but powerful. Accepting reality doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong enough to say, "I won't let this define me, but I won't pretend it didn't shape me either." Curious, isn't it? How clarity starts not with answers, but with surrender. What if the first key to healing isn't about doing more, but resisting less? Number 2. Mastering control. What you feel versus what you do. Imagine this. You're driving on a rainy day. The road is slick, visibility low. Suddenly, a car swerves in front of you. Your heart races, your breath catches, your palms sweat. You didn't choose those feelings. They just happened. But what you did next, that was entirely up to you. Did you slam the brakes, stay calm, or scream and lose control? Heartbreak is a lot like that stormy highway. You can't control the weather, but you can control how you steer. Let's take a deep breath and really sit with this idea. You are not your emotions. You experience emotions, but you are not ruled by them. Stoicism reminds us that there's a gap, a sacred, powerful gap, between what you feel and what you choose to do. And that gap is where your power lives. Heartbreak brings a wave of emotions: anger, sadness, betrayal, longing. You might wake up feeling okay, and by lunchtime, a song or a scent brings tears back like a tidal wave. That's normal. You're human, but you're also more than your heartbreak, more than your impulses, more than the reactive storm. Now think back to your teenage years or early 20s, those intense emotional roller coasters. Maybe your first breakup felt like the literal end of the world. You swore you'd never recover. And yet, here you are, older, maybe wiser. And even if this heartbreak feels heavier, deeper, or more confusing, you've learned, sometimes without knowing it, that you can still stand after falling. Emotions are not facts, they're signals. And sometimes, like storm clouds, they're loud, messy, and completely misleading. But your response, that's your truth. One of the most powerful Stoic practices is the daily reflection, asking, what did I do today that was within my control? What did I give too much power to that wasn't mine to hold? Imagine journaling that tonight. It's not therapy. It's not philosophy homework. It's self-leadership. And here's a curious thought. What if the pain you feel right now is less about the person and more about the parts of yourself you gave away? What if this isn't just about losing someone, but about relearning how to respond to your own heart? Number 3. Pain as a teacher. Reframing heartbreak with Stoic wisdom. Let's talk about pain, not as a villain, but as a messenger. You see, we often treat pain like an enemy. We run from it, numb it, distract ourselves endlessly. Scroll through social media, call someone just to avoid silence. Binge watch shows not for fun, but for escape. But pain, like a strict but wise mentor, keeps returning, not to punish, but to teach. The Stoics didn't avoid pain. They studied it. They respected it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That quote is famous today, but back then, it was a lifeline. Because Marcus wasn't just sitting in a palace with a scroll. He was dealing with plagues, betrayals, the weight of an empire. When your heart is shattered, it can feel like life has betrayed you too. But if you look closer, beneath the hurt, there's something forming. Insight, depth, compassion, and, most importantly, self-awareness. Think about a moment in your past, a painful moment, that, in hindsight, became the foundation for a stronger version of you. Maybe a breakup taught you to value boundaries. Maybe being let down made you more independent. Or maybe losing someone reminded you of your own worth. Heartbreak forces us into ourselves. It pushes us to ask questions we usually avoid. Who am I without them? What parts of myself did I lose while loving them? What am I meant to learn here? And those questions, they're painful, yes, but they're also sacred. The next time you feel that wave of sadness rising, instead of asking, why me? Try asking, what is this trying to teach me? You'll be surprised by the answers your soul whispers back. There's a certain nostalgia in pain, too, isn't there? Certain songs, certain smells, old photographs, things that once felt like home. But Stoicism doesn't ask you to destroy the past. It asks you to honor it, learn from it, and then, gently, courageously, let it stay in the past. Here's a thought. What if pain is the tuition we pay for wisdom? What if every heartbreak is a hidden curriculum, teaching us emotional fluency, self-respect, patience, and clarity? You're not broken, you're being rebuilt. Number 4. The power of letting go. Detaching from expectations and fantasy. You ever notice how we sometimes fall more in love with the idea of someone than with who they really were? It starts small, maybe a sweet memory, a perfect moment, a conversation where you felt completely seen. That moment becomes a picture in your mind, a fantasy, an ideal. And then, without even realizing it, we start editing reality to match that image. We overlook red flags, silence our own needs, and start expecting someone to live up to the version we created in our head. But here's the truth the Stoics never sugar-coated. Expectations are often the source of suffering. You didn't just lose a person. You lost the future you imagined with them. The trips you never took. The inside jokes that would have aged beautifully. The late-night whispers, the future kids, the cozy routines. You lost a story that hadn't even been written yet. And that, more than anything, hurts. But Stoicism teaches us something both sobering and freeing. We don't control outcomes. We don't own people. We don't dictate the course of life. What we do control is our focus, our interpretation, our response. Detaching doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You let go of the illusion that things should have gone a certain way. Because they didn't. And every time we say, it wasn't supposed to end like this, we're arguing with reality. Let's get honest. Has clinging ever truly healed anyone? Has begging for closure ever brought peace? Or has it only created more anxiety, more late-night overthinking, more emotional fatigue? Now think back. Was there a time in your life when you held on too tightly, to a friend, a dream, a plan, only to realize later that letting go was what saved you? Sometimes release is the beginning of return, not to the person, but to yourself. The Stoics believed that freedom begins where attachment ends. Not detachment from love, but from obsession. From the need for control. From expectations that imprison us. Here's a curious thought. What if letting go isn't about losing them, but about rediscovering you? Blank. Underscore, blank. Number 5. Purpose over pain. Turning heartbreak into a catalyst for growth. Some of the most powerful people you've ever met, people who radiate calm, confidence, depth, they weren't born that way. They were forged in heartbreak. They sat in silence, cried through the chaos, journaled through the nights, and rebuilt themselves, not in spite of pain, but because of it. When life knocks the wind out of you, you have two choices. You can either lie there, hoping someone else helps you breathe again, or you can become your own oxygen. Now, that doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means channeling them, because pain is energy, and energy can be destructive or transformative. The Stoics believed in purposeful action. They didn't believe in wallowing. They believed in rebuilding. When Epictetus was exiled, he didn't collapse. He taught philosophy. When Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, war, and personal loss, he didn't retreat. He wrote Meditations, one of the most profound works on resilience ever written. What about you? What could you create from this pain? Maybe you've already started. Maybe you signed up for the gym, picked up your guitar again, or started writing poetry you haven't touched in years. That's not just moving on. That's purpose unfolding. Think of your pain like clay. It's raw, messy, and heavy. But in your hands, it can be shaped into something meaningful. A story, a new lifestyle, a better version of yourself. This isn't romanticizing suffering, it's recognizing that energy is energy. And you decide where it flows. Remember a time when you turned disappointment into motivation? When rejection fueled your ambition? When silence pushed you towards self-discovery? Purpose doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives slowly, in the form of new routines, deeper conversations, or the quiet strength of showing up for yourself every single day. So here's the question. If this heartbreak wasn't a dead end but a doorway, where could it take you? Number 6. The strength of stillness. Building healing rituals and emotional discipline. In a world that tells you to move on, stay busy, and just distract yourself, there's something deeply rebellious and deeply healing about choosing stillness. Stillness isn't silence. It's presence. It's sitting with your emotions long enough to hear what they're really saying. The Stoics practiced this daily. They had rituals, not routines of hustle, but practices that grounded them. Morning reflections, evening journals, breathing, walking, observing the sky, watching their thoughts without judgment. What's your ritual right now? Do you light a candle before bed? Take long walks without music? Write thoughts you never share? These aren't small things. These are acts of self-anchoring. The modern world calls it mindfulness. The Stoics called it philosophia, love of wisdom, a daily discipline of checking in with your soul. When your heart is healing, stillness becomes your shelter. It doesn't mean you stop functioning. It means you pause long enough to not betray yourself. You don't jump into distractions. You don't run to rebound relationships or meaningless comfort. You create space, and in that space, something sacred grows, clarity. Think about a time in your life when everything felt loud: school, work, family, noise. And then you found that one corner, that one walk, that one playlist, and it all slowed down. That's stillness. And you can build that into your everyday life. One of the greatest signs of emotional strength? The ability to feel deeply and still remain grounded. So what if healing isn't loud? What if it's not fireworks or major life changes? What if healing is in the way you pour your coffee, the softness in your voice when talking to yourself, or the way you don't rush your mornings anymore? That's discipline. That's ritual. That's power. Curious, isn't it? How the most profound transformations don't always happen through action, but through awareness. Number 7. You're not alone. Finding support without losing yourself. It's strange, isn't it? How heartbreak can make the world feel both too crowded and completely empty at the same time. You scroll past smiles on social media, dodge questions from friends, and maybe even tell people, "I'm fine," when deep down you feel like you're unraveling. The paradox of heartbreak is that while you're grieving the loss of someone, you're also quietly losing pieces of yourself. But here's something that might surprise you. Stoicism doesn't ask you to face pain in solitude. In fact, the Stoics believed deeply in the power of community, in finding strength not just within, but with others. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the emperor of Rome, often reminded himself that he was merely a part of the whole. He spoke of being a single thread in the fabric of humanity, connected, supported, and strengthened by others. And you? You're a thread, too. Your pain isn't unique in existence, though it may feel unique in intensity. Somewhere, someone else is lying awake right now, staring at the ceiling, wondering if they'll ever feel okay again. Reaching out doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. But here's the important part. Finding support doesn't mean losing yourself in other people's opinions, distractions, or validations. True support doesn't come from numbing your emotions or from people who say, just get over it. It comes from safe spaces, from people who listen, not to fix you, but to hold you. Think back. Maybe there was a time you were going through something heavy, loss, failure, shame, and someone's presence, even in silence, helped you breathe again. Maybe you've been that person for someone else. Isn't it wild how just being seen can shift everything? Now is the time to surround yourself with people who remind you of who you are. Not who you were in the relationship, but who you were before it, and who you're becoming after it. The Stoics didn't preach isolation, they practiced interdependence. You can be strong and still lean on others. You can grieve and still ask for help. So, here's a question that might nudge you gently. What if the healing you need isn't hidden in solitude or strength alone, but in allowing yourself to be soft in front of someone who won't judge you? Number 8. Self-compassion is strength. How to be gentle while growing stronger. If you've made it this far into your healing journey, pause for a second and give yourself credit. Not for being perfect, not for moving on, but for showing up, for waking up, for facing days that felt endless and still finding reasons, however small, to keep going. We talk a lot about self-improvement, discipline, toughness, control, but rarely do we talk about what truly powers long-term healing: self-compassion. The Stoics were not harsh, emotionless beings. They were disciplined, yes, but deeply human. Seneca, in his writings, often acknowledged emotional suffering. He didn't tell people to erase their pain. He encouraged them to meet it with patience and perspective. And that starts with how you talk to yourself. You wouldn't scream at a child for falling while learning to walk. So why do we shame ourselves for feeling heartbroken? Why do we whisper cruel things like, you should be over this by now? You're so weak. It was your fault. That inner critic? That's not your truth. That's the echo of past wounds. And you don't heal by feeding it. You heal by replacing it with curiosity, gentleness, and kindness. Take a moment. Think about the version of you that existed before this relationship. The version who loved openly. Who believed in connection. Who tried, even when things were hard. That version wasn't naive, they were brave. And the version of you today? Scarred maybe, but more aware. Wiser. Realer. Closer to your core. Start talking to yourself like someone you actually love. Try saying, I'm allowed to feel this. This doesn't define me. I'm healing in my own time. Create rituals of care. Make tea like it matters. Speak affirmations like prayers. Forgive yourself for what you didn't know back then. No one gives us a manual for love or for heartbreak. What if gentleness is the strength you've been looking for all along? What if compassion is the bridge that carries you to the next version of yourself? The world may not slow down for your healing, but you can. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the real power begins. Heartbreak hurts, but it also reveals. It strips away illusion, ego, and all the noise, leaving you face to face with your truest self. If you've made it this far, it means you're not just surviving, you're choosing to grow. And that choice? It separates the few who repeat the same pain from the rare ones who rise above it. Every section in this video was crafted to help you slow down, reflect, and reconnect with your strength, your stillness, and your sense of purpose. Drop a full score in the comments if you've made it all the way here. That alone proves you're part of the 0.01% who actually finish what they start. And if you're serious about rebuilding yourself, brick by brick, thought by thought, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Because healing isn't a one-time fix, it's a journey. And this is just the beginning.